Team skills for the forming stage. Certainly all of the skills addressed in this book will help you lead people, no matter what stage of employee participation they are experiencing. There are, however, several skills you will need to be particularly adept when leading your employees through the forming stage. Building effective teamwork begins when you define team roles and responsibilities, set standards and expectations, provide technical training, tools, and resources, identify the team's capacity, establish a recognition system. Define team roles and responsibilities. Your employees have certain responsibilities that are non-negotiable, that everyone takes on when he or she becomes an employee. For example, every employee, including yourself, has a responsibility to show up to work on time, show up to work sober, respect break times and rules, respect other people and their property, perform the job as expected. Though employees are of course expected to fulfill other responsibilities as well, this list contains some of the more obvious ones. Defining people's roles and responsibilities in teamwork is as crucial. The more people understand what will be expected of them in a team environment, the greater will be their adherence to those roles and responsibilities. Defining team roles and responsibilities requires you to communicate clearly the specific role each team member will fulfill and the responsibilities for which each will be held accountable. Team roles. Team roles can be depicted as the points of a star. People taking these roles are star point coordinators. These coordinators are selected from the team and serve the team by overseeing an area of focus critical to the team's success. Using the star as a guide, let's identify more specifically each team role and its responsibilities. Keep in mind that your team may need different roles to represent the star points. As the supervisor, you must determine these roles before executing the star point system. Team facilitator. The team facilitator is primarily concerned with conducting team meetings. If you lead your team's weekly meeting, then you are enacting the role of the team facilitator. As your team matures, you may wish to have one of the team members lead the meeting. Until your team reaches that point, it would be wise for you to continue facilitating team meetings. Team recorder. The team recorder role is normally fulfilled by a team member. The team recorder takes notes during team meetings and makes sure that meeting agendas and meeting notes are posted or distributed to each member. Quality coordinator. The quality coordinator serves the team by overseeing how well the team is following internal processes and procedures. The quality coordinator is not a quality auditor, but a voice that keeps quality concerns at the forefront of the team's performance. More and more companies measure their quality through customer satisfaction surveys, focus groups, product inspection, customer complaints, on-time delivery, and the like. This information should first be provided to you, and then you should pass it on to your quality coordinator. The quality coordinator then will communicate the information to the entire team. As your team matures, the quality information provided by your company can go directly to the quality coordinator. Scheduling coordinator. The scheduling coordinator oversees the scheduling of work for the team. For example, if your team handles accounts receivable, the scheduling coordinator would make sure each team member receives the proper account information. He or she would also support the team by being a listening ear for questions or complaints. The scheduling coordinator would be the conduit for information flowing between team members and the originating source for the accounts. Ergonomic coordinator. The ergonomic coordinator is a new addition to many organizations. In manufacturing environments, this star point coordinator may be called the safety coordinator. Today, a greater number of employees are experiencing physical problems such as lower back injuries and carpal tunnel syndrome that can occur as a result of the type of work an employee performs. Therefore, the ergonomic coordinator is another observer of how individuals on the team are doing, in this case, physically. The ergonomic coordinators are not medical inspectors. They are a point of contact allowing team members to voice physical problems and concerns. In some cases, you may want to send your team's ergonomic coordinator to seminars that teach safe working positions and habits, and then have him or her give a presentation to the team. If you use the STAR system as your team structure, are you giving up your authority and responsibility as a supervisor? No. Coordinators are not assistant supervisors. They are employees who function as additional sources of information, monitoring, and support for their department. These rules encourage employee participation and give more employees the opportunity to make decisions and affect the positive direction of the team or department. Moreover, as we mentioned earlier, the team roles just listed are not exclusive. If you are in manufacturing, you may feel that having someone serve as preventive maintenance coordinator would benefit the team. If you supervise nurses, you might see the need for a patient chart coordinator. If you supervise a credit department, you might install a coordinator of delinquent accounts. The opportunities for creating additional coordinator roles are as numerous as the needs in your department. However, one rule of thumb to use with the STAR system is to have no more STAR point coordinator positions than there are team members. Another rule to remember is that the STAR points should be created only for the areas that would benefit most from more employee involvement. Team responsibilities. The responsibilities of each team member are easy to identify and can be applied immediately. Consider the typical responsibilities listed here before you communicate to your employees what their team responsibilities will be. Attend team meetings, come to team meetings prepared, volunteer for team assignments, assist other team members when necessary, respect other team members, keep the team informed about work rules, support team goals and rules. Many of these responsibilities are similar to those most employees fulfill on or off a team. Through the team process, team members should grow in their accountability to each other, not just to you. It is important to encourage your people to meet each other's expectations. If an employee feels that they are contributing to the success of their team, a growing pride will develop. This is a good sign that a team is maturing. Set standards and expectations. The next effort you need to make toward building your team is to establish team standards and expectations. Standards are the processes and procedures that your team will use to accomplish its work. Expectations establish the amount of work that should be accomplished. To assist your efforts to educate your people on team standards, begin with your organization's already established work standards. For example, a work standard for a service center might be to complete certain company documents in specific order before closing out an account or job order. A work standard for an insurance claims department might be to process the appropriate documentation and then make sure each copy is forwarded to the appropriate parties. The members of the team should follow all the work standards your organization already requires. However, there are other standards you may want your team to incorporate to challenge team members to excel. Consider what one supervisor did to raise the performance standards of his team. Fritz had just taken over as supervisor of the customer service department for a large bank. During his interview for this position, Fritz had been informed that the customer satisfaction results for this department were horrible. Although he was excited about the opportunity before him, he realized there would be a tremendous amount of work. After Fritz familiarized himself with the department's procedures, he began to make some changes. One of the first was to require the signatures of 2 employees to verify the proper procedures had been followed for each customer complaint. He set this new change as a department standard and required it for any work conducted with bank customers. Fritz reasoned that having a second individual sign off on the customer complaint procedure would place greater accountability on the first person. The first employee would know that if he or she handled the complaint incorrectly, a second person would likely catch the mistake and then have to make the correction. Fritz knew that most people do not like to be known to make mistakes. By adding the requirement of a second signature, he raised the employee's awareness that it was important to do the jobs right the first time. Setting this new standard had an immediate impact. Within 1 month, there were fewer customer complaints to review. By requiring 2 employees to sign off on handling a customer complaint, Fritz created greater accountability to follow bank procedures the first time. He also gently enforced greater involvement and cooperation between employees. His employees began to be more helpful to each other, explaining the mistakes found. After several months of following this new standard, the number of reviews remained low and was quite manageable. Because of the vast improvement, Fritz considered the possibility of removing the standard. After discussing the possibility with him, the employees all agreed that a second signature was no longer necessary. They also established the increased number of customer complaints that would have to be received before a second signature would again be required. This motivated everyone to continue to work accurately in order to avoid going back to the second signature method. A team scorecard serves a similar purpose for you and your team. If you identify the right measurements, the scorecard will keep everyone informed about what is currently going on and what adjustments may be needed. Look at the sample team scorecard in Figure 3.2. The pediatrics team's scorecard has 3 graphs, or gauges, that monitor some specific weekly results and provide the supervisor and the teams with a clearer picture of the needs of the clinic's patients. The scorecard may also help the supervisor to prepare for future weeks. For example, if the total numbers of children seen by clinic staff each day and the numbers of children seen specifically by a physician each day hold constant for a few weeks, the supervisor might predict that Wednesdays and Thursdays will tend to have lighter patient loads. Given this information, the pediatric supervisor might schedule the nurses' days off accordingly. The supervisor might also predict that more nurses and physicians must be available on Mondays and Saturdays to treat the increased number of children typically visiting the clinic on those days. The chart showing the reason for the visits also provides helpful information. If the pediatric supervisor observes increasing numbers of summer colds and allergies, he might check the supply of allergy-related medicines. An increase in a specific disease, such as chickenpox or measles, might trigger a mailing to alert parents. Such information would be greatly appreciated by parents and would reinforce the clinic's image as a caring healthcare provider. When developing a team scorecard, be careful about the number of measurements you decide to track. More measurements are not necessarily better. In fact, no more than 5 measurements should be regularly monitored. Your objective should be to identify the key indicators, the ones that will point to clear areas of concern. The team scorecard is not just for you, but for your employees. It is your tool for keeping your people focused on the business at hand. Often employees do not remember to watch for the red flags that signal coming problems. The team scorecard can make those flags more visible. Providing technical training, tools, and resources. It seems obvious that an untrained employee will not be successful. Yet organizations continue to fail miserably at educating their employees on how to do their jobs. Just as common are the companies that train their employees, but then do not provide the right tools and resources to complete the job. Both situations leave an organization in a vulnerable position and create a negative situation for the supervisor. Whatever your industry, you personally must take charge of seeing that your employees are properly trained and have the best available tools and resources. Your employees will be forever indebted to you and will become your loyal followers. You cannot build a team until your employees are confident about their ability to complete work that meets both standards and expectations. Before attempting any additional team efforts, such as assigning start point coordinators, be sure that your employees understand the basics of performing their jobs. Employees who are not grounded in the basics become easily aggravated and cynical about the company. All of this spells potential trouble for the supervisor. The person of choice to train an employee is the supervisor. If you are competent at the job the employee is doing, you should be his or her trainer. If your organization has a formal training program, your direct involvement may not be necessary. However, many supervisors find that training from the company trainers does not guarantee that employees are prepared to complete their work. You must be the judge and respond appropriately. If you have other employees who are competent at a particular job skill, involve them in the training of others. This is a great opportunity to begin the teamwork process, and it keeps you free to assist other employees in need. If you do not have an employee who can assist with the training on a particular skill, and you are not capable of it either, consider bringing in someone from outside the department, even an external company, to provide the training. Are you required to be the expert at every job performed in your department? Before you answer yes, consider all the jobs this might include. Although it's important for you to understand all the jobs performed in your department, it is not necessarily critical for you to be the resident expert on every procedure, process, or machine. Traditional supervisors were often the experts in their department. Unfortunately, the traditional supervisor was also expected to do the work when an employee was unable to complete a job. This approach turned supervisors into glorified line workers who simply had more work added to their jobs, without making any more money. The 21st century supervisor must strive to be as technically proficient as possible. However, this should not be seen as more important than leading people to develop their skills and execute their work in the most effective and efficient manner. Therefore, providing the needed technical training, tools, and resources may require you to become more knowledgeable about available resources. Chapter 10 discusses resource management in detail. Identify the team's capacity. Identifying the team's capacity means, first, recognizing what the individuals on the team can and cannot do. This knowledge can then be analyzed and used to position individuals on the team successfully. Once you have a handle on team members' capacities, then you can direct each job to the person who will most effectively complete that work. It may also be to the team's benefit to have some people perform certain tasks on one job and perform other tasks on a different project. Positioning employees is an important skill, and it will be discussed in more detail in the next chapter. For now, what is important is recognizing the need to identify your team's work capacity and understanding that before you attempt to position your people, you should thoroughly assess each individual's strengths, expertise, and weaknesses. Identifying individuals' limitations will also assist you in deciding what training opportunities you need to bring to your team. Your system to evaluate employees' capacities may contain several tools. You may find past performance evaluations helpful to ascertain an individual's capacity. You should include your own observations about the individual behaviors and work tendencies. If you have worked with your employees for a long period of time, you may feel very confident that you know their capabilities. To augment your efforts, consider using a simple employee capacity assessment, like the one illustrating Exhibit 3.1. The example shows observations that a supervisor has made about 4 of her employees in specific areas. Some of the areas provide the supervisor with an opportunity to use her leadership skills to improve the overall effectiveness of her team. The supervisor should also consider what improvement efforts are needed to raise the skill levels of all 4 employees. A supervisor can make this kind of assessment effort more detailed by assigning a numerical value to each employee's level of proficiency for each skill. Identifying a team's capacity means, second, recognizing what the team as a whole can do and cannot do. No matter what method you use to identify your team's capacity, you need to recognize your team's potential. This knowledge enables you to urge your team to reach more difficult goals and to pull your team back from attempting something that is not capable of accomplishing. Establish a recognition system. Most people readily admit that money used as a reward is very motivating. Many organizations have established a reward or incentive system for their workforce. In some organizations, an additional bonus may be paid to every employee if the company achieves some quantifiable result. A growing number of organizations are adopting other forms of incentive programs. Profit sharing, gain sharing, and pay for skills are a few of the more creative incentive programs. Recognizing and rewarding employees is an important part of a supervisor's role. Although money can be used as a reward and motivator, other forms of recognition also motivate most employees. This is an area in which you must be creative, tailoring your recognition efforts to the people you lead. Consider the efforts of the supervisor in the following story, who became very creative in recognizing his team. Jim was no genius, but he was a good supervisor who cared deeply for his employees. He had spent 8 years as the billing supervisor in a healthcare product company that served some of the biggest hospitals and medical schools in the world. There wasn't much Jim would not do for his people if it helped them or the company improve. During the late 1990s, Jim's company ran into some difficult times. Although few people lost their jobs, Jim witnessed a negative turn in the attitudes and morale from previous years. Because he had less money to reward his people, he decided to come up with another reward system, on his own. Give away company coffee cups and pens, give away a potted plant, buy the coffee at the morning break, make the annual flu shot a freebie, give away movie tickets. Remember, it's not the gift that counts, but the thought behind the gift. Incorporate a recognition system into your leadership efforts. As you orient your people toward teamwork, realize that you will have to spend a lot of time keeping them focused on why teamwork is beneficial to them and their future. Team skills beyond the basics. To continue developing your team skills, please respond to each of the following questions and exercises. Write short answers in the spaces provided. If you wish to write a longer response, please use a separate sheet of paper. 1. What strategies for involving employees has your organization tried in the past? List a few and then describe how successful each strategy was. 2. What benefits do you think teams would provide to you and your organization? 3. Revisit the synergy factor assessment. If you did not complete the exercise, do so now. Use your S factor to determine whether your employees are in the forming, storming, norming, or performing team stage. After you identify their stage according to their S factor, describe how your employees compare to the description of that stage. 4. What steps might you need to take to move your employees from their current team stage into the next stage? 5. It is important to involve as many people as possible in the team's position structure. Use the star point system presented in this chapter to determine what areas of your department might warrant a star point coordinator, and list the coordinator names here. 6. The team scorecard is a great visual reminder of what is really important to your team. What are 3 to 5 key indicators that would be good for your team to monitor? 7. Try this exercise. Referring to the example presented in the chapter, create your own balanced scorecard. Be sure you post it in a highly visible spot for all of your team members to see. 8. Are there any areas of skill training that your employees need and you cannot provide? List them here and develop a plan to get the training for the needed skills. 9. Jim's schedule of recognition discussed in this chapter illustrated a creative reward system that wasn't fancy or expensive. What are the ways in which you have recognized your employees? Write them down here and note whether there is more you could do. Consider creating your own schedule of rewards for your employees.